What's up? You are now listening to Americanized, a storytelling podcast where you will hear from eclectic first and second generation Americans share their stories and real life experiences as children of immigrants. Hey there, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Roslyn, and I'm excited to share that I started Kin Letters, which are reflections and resources for children of immigrants beyond the podcast. You can join the kin and receive these kin letters by tapping on the link posted in the show notes. Thank you! Alright, let's get into this. When living in a heavily Irish populated city and suburb, confusing the Côte d'Ivoire flag with the Irish flag is bound to happen. And it doesn't help when people perceive Africa as a country instead of the whole continent that it is. I grew up in the South Shore of Massachusetts, which is a very, very, very Irish and Italian area, heavily populated with people whose families are of Irish descent and Italian descent. I went to school with many Irish kids, Italian kids, and lots of teachers. There are plenty of pubs and Irish pride. So I'm from Norwood, Massachusetts, which is in the South Shore, and that, I think, if you know Norwood, that tells you everything you need to know. I went to school with majority Irish students and had teachers with names like Donovan, Flaherty, O'Malley, Donahue, Mahoney, Murphy, Kelly, the list goes on. And while I was surrounded by these names and people, I didn't know much about Irish culture as a kid. And I guess being the only African student, essentially, in my elementary class, my peers didn't know much about Côte d'Ivoire, if at all. There was not a large Ivorian population that I knew of in Massachusetts, but I knew my flag and could distinguish it from the Irish flag. To be fair, they are very, very, very similar. They have the same colors, they're just in reverse order. So my trick to remembering which flag is which was by remembering how green Ireland is in Irish, thinking about St. Patrick's Day, leprechauns, the four-leaf clovers, like Ireland. I've never been to, but I'd love to see how lush it is and how green it is. I love plants and nature, so that's how I remember green, white, then orange for the Irish flag. Côte d'Ivoire is also vibrant with orange and reddish soil and savanna, so their flag starts with orange, white, and green. And the colors all have meaning and is symbolic. So because I knew this difference, it would always bother me to see the Côte d'Ivoire flag being misused to represent the Irish flag. But again, to be fair, I can understand the lack of exposure to and awareness of the different countries and culture in Africa. We can say that this is excusable for young children back in the early 2000s, but fast forward to around 2017 and beyond, young and older adults who are Irish or know about the Irish flag should know their flag, the proper order of the colors, especially if you want to show your Irish pride. You know when you come across an Instagram page and the person has the flag emojis in their bio? I always get intrigued when I see the Ivorian flag in a bio. And one time I saw the flag there from someone who I think I went to middle school with, and they were Irish and they clearly wanted to represent their Irish heritage, but they accidentally used the wrong flag emoji. So I was like, ooh, that's not the right flag. We know that the flag emojis are listed in alphabetical order when you go to your keyboard and you scroll to the flags. They're in alphabetical order by country, and Côte d'Ivoire comes before Ireland, so naturally the Ivorian flag shows up first. And without paying attention to this detail, I can understand the easy mix-up. I understand, you just scroll through the flags, the first one you see looks like the Irish flag, but it's not because you don't know there's another flag that looks like the Irish flag, so you tap on the Ivorian flag, thinking it's the Irish flag. Innocent mix-up, understandable, but as someone who knows the difference, it can be a little frustrating. Moving forward into my college years, when I was a sophomore or a junior in my undergrad, I was taking this class. I forget what the class was, but we had this assignment to fill a poster board with images and words that represented our identity. So I have my poster, I have all my picture cut-ups, things that I printed from Google Images or magazines, words. I remember I even put the words first gen on there as one of the first people to go to college in my family. And of course, I added the Ivorian flag on my poster, along with other pictures. I wish I remember what else was on there, but I don't remember what else was on my poster. So I remember doing my presentation to my class, and then later that day I was walking back to my dorm with my poster in hand, and a floor mate of mine approached me looking at my poster, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were Irish," just very surprised, very shocked, in disbelief. And I was like, well, this is actually this is the Ivorian flag. The Irish flag looks like this, and my flag looks like this. So I had to explain the difference to her. When you have an interaction and then you think back on your interaction and you think about what you could have, should have, or would have said. I do that a lot, actually. And I was thinking back to this experience, maybe shortly after it happened, and I kind of wish I played into that, saying yeah, I'm 25% Irish or something silly like that, just to be funny, just to entertain it a little bit. I don't need to know every flag, but as someone, again, who knows the difference, these are just funny, interesting, frustrating experiences. Now, this last experience was maybe the most annoying or frustrating for me. I'll just call it like it is. It was annoying to have this interaction, but in the end, I could laugh about it. But I'll get into it right now. So, September 2025. I work at a school. It's back to school season. I'm at a Boston elementary school with a diverse student population who represent countries like Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Trinidad, Nigeria, even Barbados. Very diverse among the students of color. And the Irish population is represented more in the adults, the teachers and staff members, and a few students. Okay, the school is very populated with students of color, the opposite of the schools I grew up in. So we have sprinkles of white students, while the majority are Black and brown students. And the Irish population is more represented in the adults, teachers, and staff members at our school. Our school does a really good job of representing the diversity in our student population. To mirror how diverse our school is, there is, it's still up there. There's a paper display taped on the wall by the front office of a tree with branches. And there are flags of every country on this tree as the leaves of the tree. And I loved seeing that, and I thought, wow, this is a really beautiful idea. So I'm looking through all the flags, all the flags of the world. And I noticed that there are 2 Irish flags, and they're pretty close to each other. I think one might be a little bit bigger than the other one, but there's 2 Irish flags taped to this flag tree. Now I know that obviously one of those flags is an Ivorian flag, and this is obvious to me, of course, being the Ivorian person in the school. And we know that the display definitely did not come with 2 Irish flags. And this was me just quietly informing people about this error that was made. So I quietly rotate one of the flags to the correct position, properly representing the Ivorian flag. There, I fix the flag, everything looks good, everything looks fine and dandy, and I kind of did this in a way where no one saw me rotating the flag, kind of did it in a really inconspicuous, kind of looking both ways to make sure no one's looking at me doing this, just to ensure that no one thinks I'm messing it up. I'm just fixing a mistake that was made. So it looks good. Côte d'Ivoire is represented, Ireland is represented, Irish heritage is represented, Ivorian heritage is represented, the Irish people at our school are represented in their flag, the Ivorian people in the school are also being represented. Tell me why a few weeks later, or so, I noticed that the Ivorian flag that I fixed was rotated back to being another Irish flag. There can't be two Irish flags in this pack. There can't be. I was surprised to see that, and I was a little disappointed. And this was, again, very much a quiet moment, nothing loud about it. There's nothing loud about me. I was just trying to fix the mistake that was made, Okay. We want to play these games, but no. This could have been a back and forth battle of anonymous flag flipping. I don't know who changed it. I don't know if someone knows I changed it. But, there's a lot of flags on the tree. Unless they thought maybe a student did that. But I feel like that would be a moment to, kind of educate yourselves. I don't know who changed it back, but educate yourselves, maybe it was intentionally flipped to represent a real country's real flag, not two Irish flags. But whoever flipped it back obviously didn't think there was an error. They thought maybe I made a mistake. So it wasn't a back and forth battle. I did let it go. It just didn't make sense in the end, and it just made me laugh. Yes, Irish pride is super strong in Boston. If you go to the St. Patrick's Day parade alone, I think it tells you how strong the city represents this culture and heritage. I've never been to it before, but I've heard how wild it gets. And yes, the Ivorian community is tiny, so I get it. I get the mistakes, I get the errors, I get the confusion, but man, I rotated that flag for a reason. This only leaves me to wonder what my experience would be like with the Ivorian flag if I grew up in a more African-saturated community that had more awareness and exposure to African culture. I don't think there would be any flag mix-ups, and I'm not saying I'm a flag expert and I know of every flag in the world, so I understand these are mistakes resulting from limited knowledge of the African country flags. I myself have limited knowledge of the African country flags, so I get it. I can understand it. But at the same time, if I change something, and this, honestly, they probably thought a student changed it, and maybe they got offended. I don't know. I don't know who changed it. I wish I knew. I kind of wish I knew, but yeah, that is my flag confusion experiences, and I'm sure I will have more down the road. I'm curious to know if you may have experienced something similar. Let me know, and I will catch you in the next episode. Be sure to join the kin by tapping on the link in the show notes. You'll be connected to the Children of Immigrants community, where we can share our reflections and resources beyond the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Hope to catch you in the next episode. All original music produced by Stubborn Soul. You can find him on all music listening platforms at STBRNSAL.